Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to our next in our series of Meet Our Writers. Today I am here with Cindy Freed, who wrote for us Ancestors in a Divided Nation, an in-depth guide to researching your Civil War ancestors. Thanks for coming today, Cindy. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Cindy, could you tell the readers a little bit about yourself? Anything else you write, a little bit about your genealogy background?
Sure. I have a blog, Genealogy Circle. You can find that at genealogycircle.com. I write there. I try to write 2 to 3 times a week. I touch on Civil War research as well as regular genealogy topics there. I also write for the 4th Ohio Cavalry Descendants Association newsletter and write a column for their quarterly newsletter there. Then I also have written for uh, the in-depth genealogist and have the column Tracing Blue and Gray. I absolutely love researching Civil War veterans, their service, and have spent a great deal of time writing about that.
Wow, you do a lot. That's great. Thanks for sharing all that information with us. Now, for those of you who don't know the book, here's a copy of it. It's very nice. I have to say I've read it, and I read it because I'm very interested in learning more about the members of my family who served in the Civil War. What was one of your favorite things to write about for this book?
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed was finding out about the veterans' post war life. So many times when you talk about Civil War research, it's just about their military service, but there's a lot of record sets available for their post-war life as well. Civil War veterans became members of the United Confederate Veterans. They were GAR members, and there's lots of records available for their memberships in those groups. And so you can learn a lot more about your veteran, how his military service affected his post-war life. There's just a lot of interesting information out there regarding your Civil War veteran.
Yeah, there is a lot of information. I'll admit right now that my son's a little disappointed in me because he's a big Civil War history buff. We live on a Civil War battlefield.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and he's very disappointed in me that we only have veterans from one side. So my son has set me upon the task of trying to find somebody so that we could have the complete set. Do you do you find that it's easier to find records for Union versus Confederate or Confederate versus Union? Are there differences in the way you need to research?
Exactly. Yes, there are differences. Of course, the Union veterans fought for the United States. So our government, our national archives have those records. So they're much easier to access, if you will, through our national archives. Where a Confederate veteran, those records, and many of them were lost in the war, those records are held by individual states. So, for example, if you wanted to research whether or not your Civil War veteran had a pension, of course, a Union veteran, you can go to the National Archives, research there, but your Confederate veteran, you'll have to go to the individual state where he lived and would have received a pension. And that goes for just about any record set that you would be researching for your veteran. Your Confederate veteran, you're going to go to the individual states to find records about them.
Yeah, that's I have all Union veterans, and I have to say one of the best experiences I've ever had was taking a few days and traveling to Washington, D.C. to the National Archives and being able to sit down and actually hold and read the records. And there was a lot of interesting family history in there.
Oh, exactly. I have received pension records on 3 of my ancestors and found out blockbuster information in pension records. One pension file has the mother's divorce and remarriage, and oh my goodness, there's just all kind of family information in this pension file.
Yeah, I think so I'm just going to tell you this because we're talking about Civil War pensions and they are absolutely fascinating to me. Two of the big things that I found really moving that I found in pension records was one, for my side of the family, it was the father of the soldier. The soldier had died and he had applied for pension because the soldier was his sole supporter. And he had included handwritten letters that his son had sent home from the front lines as proof that he was his father.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just being able to hold those letters. And what's interesting is I'm in Virginia, and one of those letters was written in a town that's only about an hour from here and I go to all the time.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, that is fabulous. And that's an unusual circumstance that a father would file for a pension, but then to have the original letters, that's wonderful. I mean, that nearly gives me chills.
So the other one, which I've written about in my blog before, so some of you who have seen my blog may have heard the story about me squealing in the National Archives. I stood up and screamed, and I'm kind of embarrassed, but the librarians thought it was hysterical. There was a picture in one of the files.
Oh my golly! Oh, that would be wonderful. Oh, and did you have a photo before that?
No, we didn't.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my goodness. That would be exciting. And that's just an example of all the fabulous stuff you can find in a pension file.
Yeah, those were my first 2 days of a 4-day research trip, and it was like, I'm sold. I'm coming back here from now on.
Oh, that is fabulous. That's great.
So I'm flipping through your book right now to make sure that I cover anything else that I thought was interesting. You talk a little bit about draft registration records, and I'm familiar, but I'm not really, I don't think know a lot about draft registration records, and I don't know if a lot of other people do too. Could you explain what those are? Because I wasn't sure that there was a draft in the Civil War.
Sure. Yes, in the Civil War, that was the institution of the very first draft our country ever had. In mid-1863, after the war has been going on for a couple of years, of course, in the North, men were not flocking to fight like they were when the patriotic fervor swept through the country in 1861. So now you have a lack of men enlisting. And so President Lincoln, in July of 1863, instituted the draft. And as I say, it was the first draft this country has ever had. Men were required to go to the local office that was set up, and they had to register. And those records are available online, Ancestry being one of the places that you can find those records. As I say, men had to go and register. You'll find out it's even an off-year census, because you'll find out the name of, obviously, you know, the name of your ancestor you're looking for, but where they lived, whether they were married or not, what their occupation was. If they had already served, that will be listed there because they were required to register for the draft. But if they had already served, that would be noted. And obviously, one of the big omissions there would be if your man isn't in those draft records, he's probably already serving. He's off serving at that time. So checking the draft registration records, as I say, is a good off-year census, may give you information as to whether or not your ancestor has served or not, marriage information, occupation. There's a lot of information that you can get from just checking the draft registration records.
Wow. Well, thanks for telling me that tip. I will definitely go and check it out now.
Great, because it is a good resource.
Well, we're almost to the end of our time. Is there any last tips or information you'd like to share with us before we close?
Well, the one thing I do think, as with any genealogy research, perseverance is the key. Continue. I like, as I said earlier, post-war records, in particular if people researching their ancestors have never checked the special schedule of the 1890 census. Even though we know that the 1890 census was destroyed, there was a special schedule for Civil War veterans. And that schedule was saved. Partially, there are a couple of states that were not saved, but for the most part, the schedule was saved. And in looking at that schedule, you'll be able to locate your ancestor, of course, wife, where he served, how long he served. And then there's also notations as to whether or not your ancestor was injured in the war. You know, some of the notations there even include like lost hearing due to artillery fire, or blinded in one eye. So there's a lot of information that can be found there in that 1890 special schedule for Civil War veterans. And the thing with it is, you would think that it would be only Union veterans, but Confederate veterans are listed in that special schedule as well. So I suggest whether you've got a Union ancestor or a Confederate ancestor, look in that special 1890 special schedule.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your tips and talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If you're interested in purchasing Cindy's book, Ancestors in a Divided Nation, published by the In-Depth Genealogist, you can go to our website and purchase it paperback, $19.99, or you can purchase a $9.99 version for the Kindle from Amazon. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. Please check out our website, www.theinDepthGenealogist.com, to see what else we're up to. Have a great day.